Hey, what's up you beautiful feckers, how you all doing? So this is the Unbreakable Glass Warrior, Gara, or Gary, our newest Warframe added with the Plains of Eidolon update. Now, first off, to get your hands on this Warframe, you need to complete the quest, which you can get in Cetus, and once you complete it, you get the blueprint as the reward, and the other body parts, the systems, chassis, and helmet you can get from the bounties which you get out on the Plains of Eidolon as well. But is Gary any good? Is she going to become your new favourite Warframe? Maybe and maybe not. Do you enjoy dealing damage? Do you enjoy being a support Warframe? Or maybe you prefer to be a tank Warframe? Because Gara can kind of fill all of those roles if built correctly. Although I've chosen to run her as a tank, which is of course the way I like to run most Warframes, more than the other two options. I will show the builds for my Gara later on in the video. So Gara is a Warframe that is capable of dealing damage, shielding herself and your teammates for large amounts of damage reduction, putting a wall around certain objectives to stop them from taking incoming fire, and also creating mirrors that force enemies to take a good hard look at themselves. Are you proud of what you've done? No? Well then shoot yourself in the face. It all sounds pretty good, right? And in certain missions and situations, Gara is a damn good Warframe, but on the flip side, she also has scaling issues and her fort ability can be jumped over and shot under by certain enemies, which is also a little bit annoying. Now her four abilities are Shattered Lash, which can be instantly cast onto enemies or charged up for a swipe attack, which has an awesome ragdoll effect and will knock down all enemies that it catches, and it deals a nice amount of damage as well. It also has Punch Through for walls, railings and so on. Now this ability works incredibly well, especially when you combine it with her ultimate to explode that glass wall. Now the damage dealt by your Shattered Lash will scale depending on your equipped melee mods, not your melee weapon, just the mods that you have on your sword or hammer or whatever. Your frame's power strength will also increase the damage it deals, and range mods as well. Now her second ability is called Splinter Stone, which is what I have built my Gary for. Now this is where she will break her glass armour and all of the shards of glass will swirl around her or a teammate or a defensive objective depending on what you cast it on. It will deal damage to any enemy that gets caught up in it, but you can also go and you can cast it on enemies for it to deal damage to them as well, and also reduce or increase the damage that they take. Now if you cast it on yourself, a teammate or a defensive objective, you will have 90% damage reduction if you built your Warframe correctly. Intensify on its own will get you that 90% damage reduction. Now the one thing about Splinter Stone is that at higher levels the damage it deals to enemies is very minimal. It doesn't scale very well. It only tickles like level say 60, 70 and onwards. So with a build for duration, range and efficiency with Intensify equipped, Splinter Stone could be a great way to buff your squad and keep them alive that little bit longer with a really high duration. But it's entirely up to you what way you want to build, I guess, your Gara. Now her next ability, Spectral Rage, is where Gara will cast rotating mirrors that cause enemies caught up in it to get confused and start shooting at these mirrors. Now the more damage these mirrors take, the faster that they implode and deal damage to enemies around them, which means against high level enemies these things blow up really bloody quick. Now the range of these mirrors, even with a maximum range build, is pretty small compared to other abilities that other Warframes use, but it is a nice kind of panic ability. If you have a lot of enemies you can cast it and then quickly get the hell out of dodge. Now Gara's ultimate ability is called Mass Vitrify, and this is where Gary will cast an ever expanding 4 meter high glass wall that will solidify any enemy that walks through it while you're casting it, and once that cast is complete, or if you choose to end the cast early by hitting the button again, it will block out incoming fire and any enemy from walking through it, and the enemies that have walked through it will of course solidify and freeze into place. However, the wall isn't very high and some enemies can jump over it, or depending on the terrain they can shoot under it. On our old tileset missions like Sedna, Pluto and so on, this is a great ability for defense missions, survival and so on, especially defense and mobile defense, putting that wall up. However, out on the plains it's not very useful due to the nature of the map. There's hills, there's rocks for enemies to be up on, there's sniper towers, there's ships that drop enemies in, there's those jetpack crazy grenadiers with the hammers, and many more different ways for enemies to bypass that wall and ignore it, and basically mean you will still take an increased amount of damage. So it's not very good while out on the plains. Oh, I also forgot to mention that Mass Vitrify will also make you completely immune to damage, so you can use that, I guess, to negate an incoming death. Also, enemies caught by the initial cast that freezes them in place will also make them immune to status effects, which isn't anything really new. Frost players will already know this, but it can be really annoying at higher levels. Now, like I said earlier, casting Gara's first ability, that lash on the mass vitrified wall, will cause it to explode outwards, not inwards, so any enemy that's jumped over it or managed to get inside it will take no damage whatsoever from that explosion. And the explosion's damage scales off the power strength on your Warframe, but also off your melee mods equipped at the time because of the way the lash works, or the lash's damage works, or it scales. And combining those two abilities, the lash and the mass vitrified wall, for that explosion does deal a nice amount of damage up to enemies about, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, somewhere around that, but then it starts to scale off after that and you won't really kill enemies with that explosion. So that's pretty much Gara, and she's our new Warframe, so I fully expect over the next few weeks that there will be min-max builds popping up all over the place that might shine a better spotlight on where she excels or doesn't. And this is how I have gone and modded her and tested her out. Currently I have 3 different setups. I have a balanced build, a high power strength low efficiency setup, and of course that 90% damage reduction tank build, which is how I choose to run my Gara. Now let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of Gara, whether you like her or not, whether you can't wait to get her on console or not. Like I said, she doesn't really scale very well damage wise beyond a certain point, and I would really prefer to run and rely on my weapons to kill shit than the damage that she actually deals. Now do me a huge favour, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, or don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Warframe, and as always, thanks very much for watching.